to talk to you about the process of becoming healthy. Yes, becoming healthy is a process. It's not an overnight miracle. It's a process, just like learning how to walk was a process. But before I get started, let me ask you a question. How many of you out there own a $1 million championship racing horse? I suspect that not too many of you do, but if indeed you did, would you let that $1 million championship racing horse smoke? I don't think so. Would you let that $1 million championship racing horse drink alcohol? Again, I don't think so. Would you let it eat fried okra, fried chicken, pizza, rich cheesecake, and some of the other unhealthy foods? Again, probably not. Would you let it do illicit drugs like heroin, marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine? Probably not. Would you keep it in a small pen where it would only get a little bit of exercise and provide it sleepless nights and a lot of stress? I suspect not, but the question becomes is why? The answer is obvious, because it's a $1 million championship racing horse, right? Well, if you wouldn't do that for your $1 million championship racing horse, why do we do it to our $1 billion bodies, myself included? You know, our bodies are the most sophisticated machines that have ever been created. They will never be reproduced, no matter how good science gets with all of these robots and everything. We have a body that is just so complicated and so sophisticated, yet we abuse it all the time. Becoming healthy is a process, and my definition of a process is a series of events that lead to a desired outcome. Now, a bad process will lead to a bad outcome, and a good process will lead to a good outcome. No process is ever all good and all bad, but we always try to get rid of the bad parts and create a good result or a good outcome from a good process. Learning how to walk was a process. You know, when you were first born, your parents held you and cradled you in their arms, and then after that they were able to lay you down. You learned how to turn over front to back, back to front. Then you learned how to pick up your head. You learned how to lift yourself up. And then, as your parents held you, you were able to hold your head up without them being able to support your head. And at some point in time, you learned how to crawl. Now, you spent a lot of time crawling, but as you watched others walk, you wanted to do that too. What you would do is pick yourself up on the furniture, or you would pick yourself up on somebody's leg, or all sorts of objects. And after that, you learned how to take your first step and fell. And then you took another step and fell. But as you learned how to walk, and you continued to fall, but each time you got a little bit further. And when you fell, you didn't look as Uncle Johnny laughed at you and say, "Oh, I'm not going to do this walking thing. It doesn't work." No, you continued to learn how to walk to the point where you're able to walk with somebody holding you. You're able to walk after that with somebody holding your hands, and then maybe one hand on your shoulder, and eventually all by yourself. And after that, you learned how to walk fast and run. So there was a process that you went through to get to where you wanted to go. You cannot shorten the process, you cannot cheat the process, and there are no shortcuts in between. You have to go through the entire process. Well, becoming healthy is the same thing. There are no shortcuts. If you started to play the piano today, would you expect to get an invitation to Carnegie Hall in 2 weeks? No. There's a process that you need to go through to learn how to play to that extent. If you started playing tennis today, would you expect to get an invitation to Wimbledon in 2 weeks? No. Again, there's a process that you need to go through in learning how to play tennis. You can't shorten the process, you can't cheat it, nor can you take any shortcuts. You have to go through the whole thing. Now, the one thing that frustrates me is as I see advertisements on television, lose 30 pounds in 6 to 8 weeks. Very difficult to do. Most people can't do that. And another thing is, develop a six-pack abdomen in 6 weeks. Now, I'm sure you've seen some of the shows on television right now, but the average person cannot do that. The only six-pack that I know that you can get in 6 weeks usually has that little bit of cellophane around each can or around each bottle. But the bottom line is that these companies know that you can't do it. They know because they put their disclaimer in. At the bottom of every commercial or every written advertisement that you see are 3 words. Those 3 words say, results not typical. They know you can't do it, but they don't care. They just want your money. The problem with us, though, is that when we don't achieve it, we feel like failures, and we don't go back to it again, or every time that we try it, we feel like more and more of a failure to get to the point where you say, I'm just going to stay the way that I am. But that's not what you want to do. You want to get healthy. So it is a process that you need to go through. And what is the process? The process is really quite simple. The process is why, what, and how. Why do you want to become healthy? You need your reasons. If you don't have your reasons for doing it, it's not important enough to you that you're going to follow through with it. And if you don't have your reasons or your goals written down, if you don't know where you're going to, you never know when you're going to get there. And there are 3 phrases in my life that I've learned recently. One is, if you want to make some changes in your life, you have to make some changes in your life. Because if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you've always gotten. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing every day expecting different results. You need to make those changes. So you need to have your why. Number 2, you need to have your what. What are you willing to commit to get your end result? Now, I know the commitments that you're capable of making because you make them for your job every day or your business. If your boss tells you to come in early, you do. If your boss tells you to come in late or stay late, you do. If they tell you to come in Saturday, Sunday, give up a vacation, you do. But why? Because you want that result at the end of a week called a paycheck. Well, there's a result at the end of your process of becoming healthy that you want. You just need to make the commitments to do it. Are you willing to make those commitments? I hear the story all the time of people get started like a horse out of the gate, fast, but they fizzle out very quickly because their why is not strong enough. So what kind of commitments are you willing to make? And lastly, how? How do you get started? Oversimplified, you take the first step. A person may look at Mount Everest and say, well, how am I ever going to get to the top? You get to the top by taking that first step. And then you take the second step. And then you take the next step. But you make it there gradually. It's not going to be an overnight miracle. It's going to be a process. You need to find yourself a mentor, somebody who's already got the fruit on the tree of what you want, and let them help you get there. And then you have to realize, though, that other people are going to be watching you. Knowledge is caught. It is not taught. And what I mean by that is you learn more from watching people. Now, your friends are going to watch what you do, your family, your kids if you have anybody, but they're all going to be watching you to see what you do because that's where they get their knowledge from. So just in summarizing, is it easy? No, it's going to be hard. But the only person who can do it is you, and you have to make up your mind to do it. But there is a process that you can't cheat it. So if you want to make some changes in your life, you have to make some changes in your life. Now, I know that it works because everything that I recommend to you, I've already done. It wasn't easy, but it certainly was a great result at the end. And it was important to me that I get to where I wanted to go. Now, am I done? Absolutely not. I've got more to go. My reasons, I had some heart challenges. And I also wanted to get rid of my hangover. I used to say that everything that I have hangs over my belt. And from some time in the South, there's also another phrase that they have. It's called Dunlapping. Everything that you have is Dunlapping over your belt. That's another thing. And I wanted to look better, I wanted to feel better, and I wanted to increase my exercise tolerance. Now, those are my reasons. What are your reasons? Again, if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you've always gotten. If you want to make some changes in your life, you have to make some changes in your life. Have a great, healthy life.